ring if you're ready to care. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WETOODEEP. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seat. This is slapping me, yes, slapping me.
And what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Slapping Me Community Show. It is your host, the one and only WETOODEEP. We have a very interesting show for you. Today we're mainly going to talk about the Royal Rumble on Saturday and about the Super Bowl that is this upcoming Sunday. That's most of what we're going to talk about. A few other wrestling things as well. We have 10 more statements in the segment known as Do You Agree With? 10 more wrestling or football statements. And then we'll end the show as always with questions from the Discord and the hot take heat check. But before we break into that, I want to introduce to you all a brand new product that we are going to partner with at least for 4 or 5 episodes, and really until they pull it off of the website. I like to give a little bit of backstage baseball as to what is going on. So there's a website through the hosting service that I use for the podcast. They help find you, I guess you could say, sponsorships or the like. You apply for them. You can either get rejected or denied, and then you can promote the show, right? And I had been doing that for one product. I think it was only supposed to be 4 episodes that I needed to do, and so I did those 4 episodes. But it was just one of those things where I'm just going to be honest with you. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of the product, and so I wasn't going to continue to promote it. And so I had gone several months without even looking up any of these products. The ones that were available, I just didn't feel really worked. I logged on the other day just to see, though, and this new product was here, and I just went for it just to see, and I got accepted. So, introduce. So that is what we're going to promote to you. And it is a health thing. So, question that you may be asking as we start the beginning of the year: are you looking for a game-changing way to improve your health? Well, let me introduce you to Zevo Life. Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant packed with over 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, and antioxidants. Just 1 teaspoon a day supports your gut, boosts energy, and promotes healthier skin and hair. Are you ready to feel that difference? Visit Zivo.life, Zivo.life, L-I-F-E, and start your journey today with a 30-day risk-free guarantee. But what's even better, if you go today, again, to Zivo.life and set up a monthly subscription, you can save $20 monthly. That's 30 servings, 1 serving a day per month for $69 instead of the normal $89 price. But even better, if you not only want to support your health, but also support the show, you can use the code SLAPPINGMEAT at checkout and save an extra 30% off of your first order. Again, that is code SLAPPINGMEAT, all one word, SLAPPINGMEAT, at zivo.life. That's zivo.life, zivo.life, code SLAPPINGMEAT. All right, let's get down into business. One other thing, I did add the pre and post roll ads back on through, and so you'll notice that there's one ad, or the way it's supposed to work is one ad at the beginning of the podcast, then the podcast plays, and then there's one at the very end at the if you get that far, right? If you get more ads in the middle of the show, let me know. It's not supposed to be set up that way. Let me know. I can reach out and figure out why it's doing that. And so, but anyway, I did that just as a, it's not going to hurt anyone, I don't think. And so, but again, if it does get to something where it maybe becomes a little bit annoying, especially if you're getting multiple ads throughout the show, it's not supposed to be set up that way. I set it up differently this time to where it's one at the beginning, one at the end. That way it's not interrupting the show. And so, let me know if anything goes wrong with that. Just, right? But let's get down into business, and let's start today with our top 5 of the week. Again, this is that segment that B-Master suggested. It seems to be pretty liked, I guess. Again, I would love your feedback and conversation on the top 5 list. In the Discord or in the comments, let me know what you guys think of the segment, of what I pick. Any feedback is appreciated. But let's go into this week's topic, with this week being Super Bowl week. I decided to do a football-based topic with the best Super Bowl MVP performances of all time. And so these are actually ranked 1 to 5. So we'll start at 5 typically these are in no order, but this time I actually put them in order of what I think are 1 through 5. So we'll start at 5. We'll work our way up. I want to pull up the statistics for these because I want to make sure I have everything correct. I forgot to write these down. So let me pull them up real quick. Here we go. So starting at number 5, greatest Super Bowl MVP performance of all time, we will start at Super Bowl 23. I'm not very good at Roman numerals, but I do think that's 23. Jerry Rice, San Francisco 49ers. I think he had the most, or what we would consider the greatest wide receiver performance in Super Bowl history. 11 catches, 215 yards, 1 touchdown. As the 49ers went on and beat the Cincinnati Bengals. That was back in 1982, I believe it was. Now obviously I wasn't alive back then, so I can't really talk about the game. Well, that's wrong. Give me 1 second. Then I pulled up the wrong one. That was a different game. Oh, boy. This is how you know I should have pulled things up before I started recording. Anyway, let's... What is going on here? Yeah. Okay. So I was right. It was when they beat the Bengals. The Wikipedia page is wrong. That was what it is. Wikipedia page says that Montana was the MVP. They would be wrong. Or maybe not. How many times did y'all... First off, how many times y'all fucking play the Bengals in the Super Bowl? Okay, yeah, that's what it was. It was 2 different games against the Bengals. You know what? We're just gonna keep moving on because I'm looking a little bit stupid here. Anyway, Jerry Rice, 215 yards, a touchdown, 11 catches. You got to put him on the list. That was a banger of a performance. Number 4 would be the next year in Super Bowl 24, which was also a game in which the 49ers won the Super Bowl. But this time they blew the absolute brakes off of the Denver Broncos, 55-10, and that MVP performance was by one named Joe Montana. 5 touchdowns, 297 passing yards. Just an absolute clinic on the way to just destroying that team. One could offer that possibly Steve Young in Super Bowl 29 could be up there, but that one's not on my list. That was the Chargers versus the Niners. One could argue Steve Young, right? Because that was like 325 yards, 6 touchdowns. The consensus that I've been seeing, though, as well, though, is Joe Montana better than Steve Young as MVP. Better performance, right? Especially with the... Now, both were kind of blowouts. So that they're equal. I could see it. But I'm going to give the nod to Joe Montana. Now, you could say, well, you could just put Steve Young in front of him. I'm going to have to pause on that. But that's exactly what I did, actually. Is I did put Steve Young in front of Joe Montana. Steve Young. So the first 3 here, number 3, number 4, number 5 are San Francisco 49ers. Jerry Rice and number 5, Super Bowl 23, Super Bowl 24, Joe Montana, and then Super Bowl 29, Steve Young. So those were those 3 right there. Now, the top 2 performances, like you're looking at the stats that I just read from those 3, and you're thinking, well, what could be better than that? Number 2 is Super Bowl 52. And it is Nick Foles. And here's why. You go in as a backup quarterback, and you make your way to the Super Bowl, and you are battling with the greatest of all time, and you are that ultimate underdog, and you outperform the GOAT on the grandest stage in football. I think when you grade these performances, right, it's not like the stat. I'll read the stats here for Nick Foles. He was 28 of 43, 373, 3 touchdowns through the air, plus he caught the Philly special, so 4 total touchdowns. That's a performance of a lifetime, right? That's a performance of a lifetime in just absolute battling with the GOAT, and you end up winning, right? Like Nick Foles I believe, will go down in history as one of the best backups to do what he did, right? It's really hard for a backup quarterback to come in and lead a team, especially with what Carson Wentz was doing that year. Carson Wentz goes down, and a lot of fans in Philly thought that the season was over. And they go in and they play in the Super Bowl. And look, that game to me, right, was just like, I don't remember a lot of it. I had just had ACL reconstruction surgery probably 6 weeks prior to the game. Was still on all the pain medicine that they were giving me, and I don't necessarily remember a lot of what I was thinking in the moment. What I do remember, though, is that my dad was an Eagles fan, and for Nick Foles to do what he did and to deliver Philadelphia their first ever Super Bowl by beating the greatest player of all time, the greatest dynasty of all time, kind of killed the dynasty, if we're being honest. Granted, we would go back the next year, the Patriots would win the Super Bowl, and one of the most, if we're being honest, boring Super Bowls of all time against the Rams, where the total was 13-3. A completely different game than the year prior, right? But this was a Patriots team that had, the year prior beaten the Falcons, beaten the Seahawks a couple years earlier, right? They had gone to like 4 out of 5 straight with, right, so beat the Seahawks go back beat the Seahawks, then it's Denver, Carolina, right? Then the Patriots are back in at 51, then they're in 52, then they're in 53, right? So in a 5-year span, this is a Patriots team that went to 4 Super Bowls, won 3 of them. It's like in the middle of the second part of the dynasty. And what really was sort of the nail in the coffin was Nick Foles, right? And he has to be up here, right? Just the underdog performance, 4 total touchdowns, almost 400 yards passing, just absolute spectacular. But there's one performance, the number 1 MVP performance, in my opinion, was the year before, and it is Tom Brady against the Falcons. Here's why. This was a team, first half did not play great at all. First half did not play great at all. You were down 28-3. To find that resolve, to come back down 28-3, to win the game with the stat line of 43 of 62, 466 yards, 2 touchdowns. We ran the ball a lot. James White helped win us the game, right? Might have been the most important player on the team in that game is James White. But Tom Brady, right, had one of the greatest performances of all time. In the first ever overtime game, so many firsts in this one, a game where you probably could have gone into halftime, right? If you were the Patriots, you probably could have gone into halftime and said, hey, this game's over. Let's just go out, continue to show like we're trying to play, but we lost it, right? And instead, they came out and they took the field, and with the defensive help and with the help of, Brady and James White and just some fantastic plays like the catch from Edelman. I think that is the greatest Super Bowl performance of all time. And I don't think anyone else beats it, right? I don't at all think that anyone else beats that. I mean, you look at some of these other games, definitely nothing here recently has beaten it. Some other, people who could have been on the list, Edelman against the Rams, could have been on there, 10 catches, 144. If he had a touchdown, I could have considered putting him on the list. But I look at the things that are around here. Nothing else really comes close to what Brady did there. Possibly Brady against the Panthers. 354 for 3 touchdowns. Possibly maybe Kurt Warner in, what was that, 0-1 against the, or excuse me, was that 0-1? No, it was 99, right? Speaking of which, 99, the easiest schedule of the year was that Rams team, and he went 4-14 for 2 touchdowns. I guess some other people. I saw some consensus say Desmond Howard in 96, where when they beat the Patriots, he had a 99-yard touchdown recovery. I mean, he was a kickoff guy. I just don't necessarily think that is a good one. I mean, from a running back, I'm not really seeing anything. Maybe, we go back to Aikman with 4 touchdowns in 27. But again, I'm just not really seeing anything outside of what I've already put on the list. Possibly Marcus Allen in is that 18 in Super Bowl 18 with the Raiders. I mean, 20 carries, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns is pretty crazy. But you ran the ball a lot back then, and I looked at the era, the significance of the performance, and so I'm very comfortable with my list. Brady at 51, Nick Foles in 52, Steve Young, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. Those are the top 5 Super Bowl MVP performances, according to me, of all time. So as we talk about that, we'll talk about the upcoming Super Bowl when we go 4th and deep. But first, we're going to go inside the ropes, and we're going to talk about the Royal Rumble. But we got 2 other things that I want to talk about first. The first one is that, The first one is that NXT GM Ava is no longer with the WWE. She chose not to re-sign her contract. And at first, I was like, okay, she just chose not to resign. That's fine. She has her reasons. I kind of suspected that a lot of it had to do maybe with her political stances. If you don't remember, she posted, I don't remember exactly what it was that she had posted, but it was very, I'm pretty certain it was like anti-ICE or something, anti the current presidential administration. And either, I think she deleted it, but I could be wrong, I don't know. And so, like, I remember that post. Her girlfriend also got released from the company. Tatiana Dumas, I think that's how her name was pronounced. Got released from the company, and you know, it was just one of those things where, like, I don't necessarily think she's going to sign with AEW. She could. She's not a good wrestler at all. And she wasn't really, if we're being honest, she wasn't very good at the GM role. In terms of, like, you know, I think it's a low bar. And we can kind of keep it kayfabe, like, oh, she was the GM and NXT had the greatest booking, but again, that's just keeping it kayfabe. She honestly didn't do any of that, right? And so I just, she really wasn't the greatest at promos. It was really hard seeing her go out and cut promos sometimes. Even as the GM, she wasn't necessarily like the best on the mic. And so as much as it's like, oh, it's going to be weird not seeing her, it then comes out, she posted earlier today or Sunday or something, sometime since last Tuesday, she posted, and now that I could speak with my full chest, F you ICE, or something like that, right? And again, she has the right to have her political opinions. And now that she's free from WWE and any company, you know, reprimanding her for those opinions, she can say whatever she wants to say. I think it's a little bit childish to not work for a company if that's the absolute reason. I don't necessarily think it is the reason. I'm just going to be honest. I think she was going to leave anyway. Right? I think it's a weird thing to say that the first thing you say post being out of your contract is that statement. I think that's a little wild to do. I'm just going to be honest with you. So the question then becomes who's the next GM of NXT? And, you know, we talked about this a little bit in the Discord, and I don't know if we came to a consensus. I know we kind of said, oh, it has to be a legend, and I'm down with that. But I kind of want someone new, because everyone was listing names like Bischoff or something along those lines, and I kind of want something new. There's a couple easy ways you could do this. You could just, you know, have Robert Stone take over the show, and that works. You can go GM lists for, right, and maybe go like an anarchy style, like, hey, there's no ruler now, like, now the trouble can come out. You can bring in a Regal to do that. Maybe you introduce a new character. I don't know. There's plenty different ways that you can ultimately run the show. It does need a GM. I see a lot of people, I've seen some people, before I got rid of my X account, say, we don't need GMs, it doesn't need a GM, the GM role's stupid. I disagree. WWE, your shows need a GM to make it at least feel somewhat realistic, right? You need that authority figure that the wrestlers for your individual show have to answer to. You have to have that level of authority, because we all recognize that in any job that you work, there's and even outside of your job, right? So you're not clocked into work. You just clocked out of work. You start driving your car. There's still authority over you, right? You have to listen to the law, or else the police might pull you over, right? There's always that human understanding that there is authority over you, and there needs to be that authority figure. I mean, even within like normal sports, you recognize that there's authority, right? So the NFL recognizes that there's, an authority over the players, whether it's the ownership, the GM of the actual team, Roger Goodell is the commissioner, right? And so there's that hierarchy of authority within the company that you recognize, where it's like, hey, Shawn Michaels is the head of whatever, but he's not the GM. He promotes the GM, right? So I'm interested to see where that goes. I think you have a couple options as well. There was rumors of Paige showing up at the Rumble. Maybe she comes back. She can be a female GM. Santino can come over and get displaced from TNA. I think Santino can come in and run NXT. I think maybe, with Daria Ray coming back in TNA, possibly Santino can come over and looking for a job. He can get promoted to NXT or whatever. I think it'll be interesting. You can create some fun storylines out of losing Ava right. I think it was Highlander that even brought up, we need a heel GM. It would be nice to have a heel GM for once. And I actually agree. I think Robert Stone, though, would actually portray like a very good heel GM. Like the guy that was always trying to get to that position to be the GM of the show. And then even like before they released, I can't think of her name, who used to help, like they were co-GM of Evolve, then they released the girl, I can't think of her name off the top of my head. But she, they were like co-GMs, and Ava sort of sided with her a little bit more, right? So now you make Robert Stone the GM, and maybe he has some backroom deals he was already negotiating, and maybe he sort of, I think it would even be interesting if he is sort of like controlling Dark State or something along those lines. I think a heel GM would work. I think Robert Stone, if it was me, I would just put Robert Stone there as a heel GM and let things run out and see how it goes for 6 to 8 months, and then maybe you can make a change if needed. But I think Robert Stone could run that very well. The second thing is Tommaso Ciampa showed up on WWE, or excuse me, not WWE. He left WWE. He showed up. He didn't re-sign either, and he's now All Elite. He's in AEW. He shows up on Dynamite on Wednesday to answer the open challenge of the Briscoe Boy. And I have to be honest with you, just for a split second. I'm not the biggest fan of AEW and how they present new characters, right? Especially like free agents that they sign from WWE, right? I'm not the biggest fan with that, right? Because for the most part, they bring them in corny ways that aren't long-term establishment of why I should care about the character. They presented Tommaso Ciampa fantastically on Wednesday. Now, I didn't watch Collision. We'll talk about what happened on Collision here in a minute. But just let's talk about the first introduction, right? What I think is cool is no one knew for certain if Tommaso Ciampa was going to go All Elite. I think we figured eventually he would be. We knew that he put a post up that he no longer was re-signing, that he thanked WWE. that he had copyrighted Psycho Killer and I think one other trademark that he got, and that his shirts were back up on Pro Wrestling Tees, right? And then that Wednesday comes, and the lights go out, and just listening to different AEW fans realizing they had no idea who it was at first, and that it was a complete surprise to them. Do you guys? I need to bring that up. You see that feeling when something like that isn't spoiled? How the reaction to it is more enjoyable. That's what I'm like. If you don't have the dirt sheet spoiling everything for you, I think you can actually enjoy wrestling a little bit more. One of the things that kind of annoy me when it comes to modern wrestling, it's one of the reasons as well that I'm trying to get as far away from social media as possible. It's one of the reasons where I don't want the show spoiled for me anymore. I'm tired of getting on X and just seeing spoilers all over the place, or Dave Meltzer talk about something he has zero idea about, or all of that, right? And so, but you felt that feeling where people didn't know who it was, and then when they saw there was Ciampa, right? I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't watching AEW live, but I saw the clip of his debut, and I knew what it was. And the lights go out, and I have this ability to sort of be like, I'm just going to watch this for the entertainment that I don't know if a lot of wrestling fans have anymore. Where I know what happens, but I'm just going to sort of forget about the result for a minute, and I'm just going to watch it for the entertainment. And they start playing the music, and you hear the heartbeat, and you see the heartbeat on the Tron. And I'm going to be honest for you. For a second, I was fully expecting his NXT theme to play. No one will survive. That's my favorite WWE theme song of the last 10, 15 years. Is No One Will Survive. Tommaso Ciampa had one of the greatest theme songs in NXT. And I 100% expected that to start playing. Obviously, it couldn't because it's owned by WWE. But I just, for that split second, was like, if that song plays, I'm going to mark out. And it doesn't. The Psycho Killer name shows up on the Tron. He walks out. Lights come back on. You fully see him. He comes down. He stares down the champion and stares the title down, right? I'm coming for your title, right? And just the way this was presented was fantastic. Was really, really, really good. I just have to give them credit for that. So then you go to Collision, and he is now your new TNT champion. Which, by the way, a lot of you might think I'm going to hate the move. I love the move. I love the move that Tommaso Ciampa is now your TNT champion. Why? He's so much better than the Briscoe boy. He's so much better. I think it's Mark. I wanted to call him Jay, but that's his brother. But Mark Briscoe. Not that Mark Briscoe's bad. I just think Tommaso Ciampa's so much better. And to hold your title and be on TV, there's a mainstream appeal to that. I think there's enough wrestling fans who don't watch AEW who can tune in and say, hey, that used to be Gargano's partner, right? Now, I saw a post that, the way the AEW's presented Tommaso Ciampa is better than the way WWE has done it since his main roster debut. I'll agree, but I don't think it's the best run. They kind of made it sound like this is the best run Tommaso Ciampa's ever had, and he's only done 2 dates. Absolutely wrong. Tommaso Ciampa in NXT by himself, when he had Goldie and he was protecting Goldie, and like peak NXT right before it's at the very tail end of the black and gold era, when it was Ciampa, Pete Dunne, that era, right? Right before 2.0, right? That era, I wasn't the biggest fan of the era as a whole, but that Tommaso Ciampa was the greatest Tommaso Ciampa I've ever seen. the greatest he's ever been. I think it meant something, that his runs meant something. And so, do I think there's potential for Ciampa in AEW? Without a doubt. I like that he went for the TNT title, being that it would kind of have ruined it if they shoved him into a championship, like world title picture. But also, this gives him the ability to, I think he fits right in with the Don Callis family. I just do. I don't really know much more that's going on AEW, but I'll be honest with you. Their presentation of Tommaso Ciampa over the last week has been pretty good. You have to give credit to Tony Khan when he deserves that credit. Like, if I'm going to poo on him, and I poo on him a lot, I got to give him the credit that he deserves when he deserves it. And I think the way he presented Tommaso Ciampa has been pretty good for the 2 dates he's had him. Can he continue that? I don't know. But I think it was a very good way to start with Ciampa. So now we're going to talk about Royal Rumble. And I know there was a lot of questions in the Discord about, what I thought about the Rumble, and I'm not going to answer those in the questions for the Discord segment. As I notated in there, we're talking about the Rumble. That was something that was going to be talked about. I'm going to address your questions without really asking the questions, because there were things that I was already going to talk about, as I notated in the server, right? And so, I don't want you to come and oh, you didn't answer my question. Well, I did, just in a different segment of the show, right? So, I know there's one of, what did I think about the Rumbles? And if I didn't like it, how would I change it? Well, that was going to be one of my talking points anyway. So I'm not going to repeat it twice, right? But let's talk overall as the entire event. We'll talk about the 2 Rumble matches last. And this is kind of going to lead into the hot take heat check as well. We'll kind of repeat that. I'm just going to be completely honest with you, though. In fact, I'll just go ahead and give you the hot take heat check now, because that's part of my talking point, and that is Royal Rumble no longer has to be a PLE. We have to stop making Royal Rumble the matches a PLE. It doesn't need to be its own standalone event. And I've talked about this every single year for the last 3 or 4 years, that Royal Rumble's one of those. I don't remember who said it in the Discord, but they said, well, this is no longer a Big 4 event anymore. And I would practically agree with you that Royal Rumble as an event, as a PLE, just doesn't mean anything anymore. The only thing people care about are the 2 the 2 Rumble matches. Why can't we just get these on Raw and SmackDown and make a Raw and SmackDown that feels special? I don't think you need to have a designated PLE called Royal Rumble. The 2 other matches we had, whether it be Sammy and Drew, which was a decent match, but it wasn't needed on this card, or AJ versus Gunther, which again was a decent match, but it really had no purpose. It served very little purpose outside of, well, AJ Styles is gone. And we can sort of talk about where we think AJ Styles, in my opinion, he has 2 options. Well, really 3. He's actually done. He's going to AEW or he's going to TNA. Those are the 3 options. The one most likely to me, based on how he presented himself, and I know people are going to hate me on this. I think AJ Styles is going to All Elite Wrestling. I think he's going to AEW. I think he sort of symboled that with the 2 Suite. I 100%. I also think Finn Balor is going to go with him. I said this, so I was watching Junkyard James's show last Thursday, and they were talking about this, and I presented this idea of a Bullet Club reunion. That I think AJ Styles shows up, and whenever Finn Balor's contract is over, I think we're starting to see where Judgment Day is now just Dom, Raquel, Liv, and Roxanne, and JD's sort of out of the picture. I think he's hurt again. I don't know for certain. But Finn Balor is sort of getting the short end of a stick, not in the Rumble. Though he did sign renew a deal back in 04, or in 24, where many assume will be a 5-year deal. So I don't necessarily, I mean, that would be another 3 years before he leaves. So maybe this doesn't work. But I think at some point Finn Balor will be All Elite as well. But what I pictured was AJ Styles showing up. And then maybe a Finn Balor showing up. And it really doesn't even need to be Finn. But because Finn started the Bullet Club. But he doesn't have to be a part of the story, right? But AJ Styles shows up. And essentially gets revenge that he's been waiting 10 years to get on Kenny Omega for kicking him out of the Bullet Club. And that's really the big story. Is because I know everyone wants him in TNA for one final run. And I actually think he does that. I think he's going to go immediately to TNA. And I think he's going to run possibly to Slammiversary in what? That's like July, right? So then he'll be done at Slammiversary. Maybe he gets a title run, and then, right? And then after he loses it at Slammiversary, where he puts over someone new, right? And then after that, I think he shows up in All Elite and finishes the year in AEW, where he can run some dream matches that people have been wanting to see on American soil, like a Kenny Omega, like a Will Ospreay, like a what is his name? Kyle Fletcher, right? I think he can run some of those matches to end the year. MJF, maybe not get a title run. But him against Okada again. I don't know if that ever happened in New Japan, but I'm sure it probably did, right? And so I genuinely believe that AJ Styles can run Royal Rumble, can then run Slammiversary, or through Slammiversary and TNA, can run All In, or All Out, or both in AEW, and finish the year in AEW. I think both are going to happen, legitimately. But overall with the Rumble, Sammy versus Drew didn't need to happen there. It only happened because Sammy has ties to Saudi. It literally is the only reason it happened. But he lost, right? Sammy lost, right? Like I said was going to happen. Insert year-long Daniel Bryan 2.0 story where Sami Zayn, and this is exactly what's going to happen. Hold me to this. Record this if you need to. Over the next, up until about SummerSlam, Sami Zayn is going to lose and lose a lot, right? You have to create empathy, so he's going to lose, right? We have Money in the Bank in September. So one of two things can happen. Either he wins Money in the Bank, but he holds it until Mania in Saudi. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to be in the Money in the Bank match, and he gets pushed off the ladder like last second, right through his fingertips. The next person to climb up wins the ladder, or wins the briefcase. Excuse me. And then, right, but around that time, he's going to start oosing up a little bit. He's going to start getting oosy again, right? Where he's going to start winning matches. He's going to be a little bit more serious. We're going to probably hear a lot of, I can't keep failing. I got to do this before I run out of time, right? And then we're going to get to about the Royal Rumble next year. And I think he wins next year's Royal Rumble. It's that, and here's why. You don't have to, like, Sami Zayn isn't good enough to just win the title, right? It has to be one of those, like, lucky moments where he gets lucky that he wins the Royal Rumble. And it's going to happen in a way, sort of, it's going to be that Jey Uso story again, right? Right? And we're going to hear all about how he's never won a world title in WWE. And we're going to hear that for the next year, right? Next year at Saudi in Mania, probably in the Night 2 main event. No matter who it's against. Though part of me feels that it could be, I don't know, really just, I'm not going to predict an opponent, but Sami Zayn's going to win the title in next year's WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. He's going to win. It's going to be the Night 2 main event, and he's going to have that crowd hype, right? And he's going to do it in front of, right? Absolutely insane that he's sort of the chosen one for the Saudi audience, considering, 5, 6, 7 years ago when these things first started, he wasn't even allowed in the country because he's Syrian. I just find that kind of hilarious. But again, I'm not looking forward to the story. I'm just giving you what is going to happen, what it appears is going to happen. We talked about Styles and Gunther. It was a good match. Again, to address back to Cody and James' show on last Thursday, they make good points. Like what's next for Gunther? Right? Like, what is next? He retires Cena. He retires Goldberg. He retires AJ Styles. We know he's going to retire Brock. Like, y'all know that's going to happen at SummerSlam. He's going to retire Brock. But in that meantime, in between Rumble now retiring AJ Styles and retiring Brock Lesnar, what is the quote-unquote career killer going to do? And is this going to be the gimmick? You have probably one of your greatest wrestlers in the company. Is that what you're going to have him do? Right? And someone, I think it was Highlander, and he has the ability to have this opinion. I understand the opinion where he says, Gunther hasn't done anything to deserve the ability to retire these superstars. I highly disagree. I think Gunther has a body of work that extends about a decade now in WWE of being one of, if not the greatest wrestler on the planet. There was a point there when he was IC champion where I put him in the top. I put him as the number one wrestler on the planet. I've never seen Gunther have a bad match. He has that that ability to he never puts on a bad match. He elevates everyone he's in the ring with, and he just has that it factor. And a lot of people don't like his character or his gimmick or and all of that, and that's fine. You don't have to understand it. It's from a different era of wrestling, and that's why I kind of like it, because it goes back to when wrestling was very simple. And all you needed was character work, and, you didn't have to, you weren't yourself. One of the things that annoy me the most in wrestling now is you get these new wrestlers, they get trained, and they're essentially trained, have your gimmick be you turned up to 11. And that's very Vince Russo-ish, by the way, and I used to promote this all the time when I used to be like a huge apologist for Vince Russo several years ago. That, you just need to have you turned up to that's a stupid way to book anyone, right? Because if I wanted to have them, we wouldn't change their name. The whole point of playing a character or playing a gimmick is to be something different than yourself, right? And that idea of this be yourself only works for a very small handful of people, right? Like, it works for kind of like Cody Rhodes, right? It worked for John Cena, but even then, John Cena had extensions of the character that probably weren't himself, right? I think I feel like one of the things I would do if I were to take control of any of the top 3 wrestling companies, WWE, AEW, TNA, is to go to the entire roster and say, hey, I need you to come up with a gimmick that is not yourself, that is a character that I can book stories around. That's interesting. Like, I don't want you. I think that's some of the worst advice you can give to anyone is just go be yourself, but turn it up a little bit. No. Be a character. There's nothing wrong with being a character. And I feel like in modern wrestling, we have this sort of opinion that you have to just be yourself. And that's why everyone looks like created wrestler number 7, right? That everyone creates. Everyone looks the same. Everyone has the same gimmick. And no one wants to play a character. And I think that's the wrestlers who stand out the most are those who sort of have a gimmick, right? Obafemi, for example, right? Obafemi is not from Nigeria. Or maybe he is. But Obafemi in real life is a shot putter who excelled at the University of Alabama. You know what never really gets brought up about Obafemi? Him at the University of Alabama. Why? Because he's a character. Like, it's one of the things that annoy me about the presentation of someone like Trick Williams, right? The amount of times that either he brings up or his opponent brings up, and that's why you couldn't cut it for on the Eagle, or that's why you got cut from the league or whatever, right? And, well, no. Trick Williams never played in the NFL. Trick Williams is a character. The guy playing Trick Williams was in the NFL. But he's playing a character. It's sort of like Bron Breakker said something. Like, Bron Breakker's not a character. Bron Breakker is just, they're using his football, his previous ability to play football as essentially his gimmick. That he could run fast, that he was a running back. He even said something along the lines in a promo here recently about playing with Lamar Jackson, right? Like, Bron Breakker never played with Lamar Jackson. Bronson Rechsteiner was on the practice squad of the Baltimore Ravens and possibly took a handoff from Lamar Jackson. I don't think he ever played in a singular game for the Ravens, right? So it's not like you were out there playing with Lamar. Let's just be a little bit out, right? But it's those little things that sort of take me out of the care, right? Here's the thing. 3-4 years ago, Bron Breakker was my favorite wrestler. I could give I don't care about Bron Breakker anymore. Because all they've done is they've turned him into, he can run really fast. And they took everything interesting about Bron Breakker away from Bron Breakker, right? And they've turned him into basically some cheesy, he can run really fast, he can hit the spear. Let's watch him run the ropes for 14 times, and then he's going to hit the spear and spear you out of your boots. And it's the same thing, right? They've just really, in my opinion, ruined that, right? But the best wrestlers are those who come in and play a character. Why do I like Tatum Paxley so much? Because she's playing a character. It's not herself. She's playing a character. I think if you could come in and play a gimmick where you're not yourself, it's so much better. But let's talk about the actual Rumble matches. And oh boy, what a thing. Let's start with the women's. Now, we're not going to go over every single entrant. We're going to go over some things that cross my mind. So first off, individual best performance. I'm going to be honest with you. This one for the women was Sol Ruca. Sol Ruca proved herself in this Rumble 100%. Caveat, honorable mention, Kiana James. Kiana James showed up in this Royal Rumble and did her thing. I'm going to be honest with you, though. Triple H has this booking style, and he did this with both the men's and the women's. He has this booking style where he wants to try to outsmart the smart marks, right? And in doing so, how do I describe this? He tries to keep everything a secret. He doesn't want you to know what he's going to do for WrestleMania, right? He wants to try to keep the card a secret. But Triple H, listen to me, right? Listen real if you listen to this podcast, Triple H, or anyone at WWE, get this to Triple H, right? Listen to me. The best stories are the ones where the listeners or the watchers or whatever is going on is following along with the story, and about halfway of the way there can say, I think I know where this is going. Let me keep watching to see if I'm correct. There's nothing wrong with the show being predictable. I know you keep having in your ear from the IWC say, the show's too predictable, the show's too predictable. That's not the problem. The problem is the predictability your predictability for some cases is just, Rhea Ripley's never going to lose a match ever again, right? And we had that point, it felt like in 2024, really 2023, 2024, where it felt like if Rhea Ripley was in it, I'm not guessing against her, right? And so that predictability gets boring. But I've said this before, predictability within storylines is fine as long as the story isn't boring, right? And so within the women's Rumble, I don't think one of the things that I always liked watching the Rumble for was to figure out through the Rumble what the WrestleMania matches or feuds going into WrestleMania were going to be. And I just honestly didn't feel like we got any of that. First thing with this women's Rumble, we have a problem with the women's roster, on the main roster. Like 90% of the people in the women's Royal Rumble were in a tag team. Alexa and Charlotte, Julia and Kiana, Lash Legend and Nia Jax, Lyra and Bayley, Rhea and Io, Judgment Day had 3 members. So that's 23 just in those 6 team names. 23 competitors were in tag teams. And so it was really hard. Like, you had you had Brie Bella show up, right? Now, obviously, so first off, Triple H said, watch, we're going to give you a lot of surprises. And the women's surprise was Brie Bella. Listen, I'm a Brie Bella fan. When it comes to the Bella twins, Brie Bella was my pick. Right? Anyone who knew me when I started watching wrestling again in 2014 can tell you that my wrestling crush in 2014, 2015, 2016 was Brie Bella. She was the one that I always cheered for, right? When her music played, it really wasn't a surprise to me. I kind of expected this one, right? But when at 29, when Brie mode, right, listening to that, I marked out a little bit, right? Right, but we knew she came in specifically to join Nikki, and they're probably going to be in a tag team championship feud, probably going to be the Bellas versus Rio. What's it? They're calling them Rio, right? Rhea and Io. for the titles. That's probably going to be the feud down the line, right? And so there's 25 that are tag team wrestlers. So then the ones that weren't tag team wrestlers. So then you had Jordan Grace, Kalani, JC Jane, Sol Ruka, and Chelsea Green. Right? So there's your 30. So like 25 of the members in that match were part of tag teams. That's a problem. Because the Bellas came in and I was expecting, okay, maybe they're going to set up their feud. And then I'm like, but which tag team are they going to go against? Because they're feuding with like half the roster right now. Right? We have a problem with this women's tag division. Everyone's in a tag team. There's a problem there. Right? It's poor booking is what the problem is what I'm trying to get to. It's poor booking, right? But then anyway, we get to this point, and I'm sorry, we had Tiffany Stratton, so my math somewhere went wrong. Yeah, my math went wrong severely. I'm a little bit slow. Just excuse me for that. But the whole point is you had like 20 people that were in tag teams in this, because you had Kiana. Kiana is kind of, like I said, she's kind of part of one with Julia. You had Asuka and Kyrie. That's a tag team, right? It felt like 20 plus of these women were in the women's tag team division or had a tag partner. And I don't understand that booking. I really don't. Kiana works better by herself. Right? Julia works better by herself. Lash Legend will be fine without her. But then even when you had them as teams, like, they wouldn't even be in the, like, outside of Damage Control. None of these teams really got to work together, right? Nia Jax was eliminated before Lash Legend came in. Imagine if you had both of those big girls in the ring just dominating, right? As a tag, like, it makes no sense. The way this was designed, laid out, and presented really made no sense to me. But Sol Ruka was performer of the night, for sure, in the Women's Royal Rumble. I personally believe she should have won. Now, I'm not going to take any way away from Olivia Morgan. Liv Morgan wins the match. Here's the issue. Is she going to face Stephanie Vaquer? As I'm recording this, Raw still is going on. I don't know if the Raquel versus Stephanie match has happened. Again, I'm not on Twitter or anything, X or whatever, to check. I can maybe check Facebook. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. That's probably going to be the main event, though. I just want to see if that match has happened yet. Because the question that I had before I started recording this was, well, Raquel has a match against Stephanie for the title. Is Raquel going to win so that Liv and Raquel's feud can happen and actually mean something? It's a street fight. That's interesting. Someone's going to attack somebody. That's definitely going to be the main event. That probably just started. Well, Obafemi is on Raw, which fucking sucks. Anyway, because I would really like to watch that. Yeah, so nothing has happened with that match yet. So depending on that result, like, is it gonna? Because it's not gonna be. I'm gonna assume it's not gonna be Liv versus Jade. That makes no sense at all. So it's gonna be Liv versus Stephanie Vaquer. Liv versus Raquel makes a lot more sense. So is Raquel. Did you give away this match? Right when Stephanie could have fought Raquel at Royal Rumble in a title match, and Raquel not take up a spot where you could have put in someone else, like a Maxine Dupree. Well, Maxine was in the match, but name anyone that wasn't in it. I don't know. I felt like Liv Morgan. Like, I'm not upset Bianca didn't come back. Bianca, from what I understood, where she broke her knuckle last Mania, like, she may never wrestle again. Like, it may never heal, from what I understand. So, like, I'm not upset. But I don't know. I'm just a little bit more, I didn't feel coming out of that match that we got any storyline. Right, from the women's division, I don't feel like we are working on a congruent story towards WrestleMania, right? I feel like Triple H is trying to surprise us, and by doing so, it's just not leading to very good results. I'm not upset with Liv winning. I think it makes the most sense with what you had. It would have been interesting to see Soul win, seeing that Soul's not on the main roster yet, and maybe seeing her, win the match and choose either of the champions. I also think it would have been interesting to see JC Jane win and choose Stephanie Vaquer, because that's who she won the NXT Women's Champion from. And thinking maybe she has her beat. I don't know. I thought that was a cool little thing. But let's transition to the men's match. Main event. The same critique. I just didn't feel leaving that match that we really set up anything. The one thing we did get set up that I am pretty certain will happen will be OG Grande Americano, portrayed by Chad Gable, versus current El Grande Americano, portrayed by Ludwig Kaiser. And I was really hoping this would happen. We got it. I marked out for the moment. This is going to be great. This is going to be a really fun angle, a really fun match. You can take it across Raw and SmackDown to AAA. You can take it across everything, right? It's going to be really fun. We got that. But when it came to some of the big players, right? So first off, Braun Breaker comes down. First off, Obafemi's number one. Obafemi's number one, and he's in the ring. And Braun Breaker's going to be number two, right? And so you put your two big players for the future out here, right? And as Braun's making his way down the ring, he gets attacked by masked dude. I don't care who it is. Maybe we'll play it. I've heard it's Finn, maybe JD, maybe Logan. Who at this point we'll see what it is. I'm not going to make a guess. I don't know. He gets in. Obafemi eliminates Braun Breaker. Kind of probably ruined most people's picks. I think most people probably picked Braun was going to win the match. Oba comes in and basically just starts eliminating people, right? And so we all were kind of assuming, okay, so when's Brock coming to get the stare down? Well, it doesn't happen. He gets to like 6 eliminations, and then they just stop the whole gimmick, right? And now he's just in there fighting people. And so I don't even remember who eliminates Obafemi, to be honest with you. He gets the stare down with Brock, but it really wasn't like a stare down the way that I would have had it happen. Other things, I guess, what's cool, we had Iguana in there. That was fun. La Parka was fun. I know a lot of people are going to say that's a waste. I don't think it was a waste. I think it was fun. And then we get to like some of the, so again, who's Obafemi's WrestleMania opponent going to be? It doesn't feel like we set that up. What about Brock Lesnar? Because he knows Saul Dragunov, and that might be the biggest moment to set up a feud with him. But it appears that they're probably going to go the Obafemi route. I don't know. I just leave this, with a lot of questions. LA Knight eliminates Brock Lesnar, but no one is paying attention to it because as it's happening, Jey Uso is making his entrance from the crowd. Like this is the type of stuff that is so, excuse me for saying this, right? I don't mean this, it's so retarded, bro. This type of booking, JD from NY, I don't really listen to him much anymore, but I saw the clip from him where he was like, whoever planned this segment needs to be fired. And I 100% agree with him. This was stupid, bro. Why does Jey Uso get to come from the crowd? And then why does he get to take 300 years, it feels like, to get to the ring? I think we need to make a new rule. If your entrance takes longer than the next entrant to come into the ring, you're eliminated. You forfeit your chance to be in the Royal Rumble. I think we need to make that a rule. I don't know. Like, I think I know where we're going with Cody. I think we're going Cody, Jacob, Drew, triple threat. We're going to have a triple threat. Triple H loves his triple threats. And possibly that's where we go with Liv, is Liv, Raquel, and Stephanie triple threat. That might be the play. Because Triple H loves to have multiple triple threats on his Mania card. That he wants to get as many people on the card as possible. Maybe that's the play. Roman Reigns ends up winning. So I'm assuming Roman's going after Punk. Because I don't see him going after Drew. I just don't, because I think Drew's already preoccupied. So Roman Punk seems to be the play. Now, let me tell you what I initially thought when I saw this happen. Roman Reigns had said something on the Pat McAfee show where he was gone, he lost the title, and he took a hiatus, and they had some time to, these young kids never, built their stardom up in the time that I was gone, so I'm here to take it back. Let me tell you what I think happened. Triple H realized the one thing that I said back before Cody beat him for the championship. If you take the title off of Roman and you don't have the next guy there, the product's going to suffer. And what they realize is Roman Reigns is still the biggest draw in the company. And they need Roman Reigns. And that puts Roman Reigns in a very awesome position where you need me. Give me the title. I think Roman Reigns is beating CM Punk for the championship. And I think we're going on another run. But this time, the problem with that is Roman Reigns is a babyface from what I understand. Correct? So is CM Punk. Drew's the heel, but he's kind of preoccupied with Fatu and Cody Rhodes. So I'm interested. I would love to see Roman Reigns turn back into a heel. You don't deserve me. Jey Uso had posted something. Man, you don't deserve my family. This is interesting. This is interesting. What if the bloodline reforms? Right? I think this could be interesting. But we'll have to keep watching to figure that out. I'm not the biggest fan of this Rumble. I'm going to go back to my hot take heat check here. Royal Rumble no longer has to be a standalone event. We can do the Royal Rumble matches on a Raw or a SmackDown. And I think we could just have it be the first of like the debut episodes in January, or maybe a special episode of Raw and a special episode of SmackDown, where you do the women's on one, the men's on the other, right? I don't think we need an annual standalone Royal Rumble event that essentially is the 2 Royal Rumble matches and then 2 other matches that could have been on Raw or SmackDown. So that's where I'm at when it comes to the Royal Rumble. All right, let's go. Excuse me. Let's go. Fourth and deep. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl and mainly just predict the Super Bowl. That's the main football topic that we're going to cover today. The Super Bowl is this Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time start. I haven't been really paying close attention over the last week with the talking points. I think it's all as Super Bowl press week steps up, and as the press, continues this week, I think we'll get more interesting storylines. I'm trying not to come out this biased. I genuinely believe the Seahawks are the better team. But it's not about who's the better team. That's not who wins the Super Bowl all the time. I will say this. The Patriots have to play perfect defense because excuse me, because Seattle has a two-headed monster running the ball, and they can throw the ball as well, right? Sam Darnold has shown something the last 2 years, right? And I think he's playing the best football he's ever played in his career. And I'm happy for him. I was talking to this with a friend of mine down here in Carolina, and he's a Panthers fan, and he's like, you guys just got to blitz them. And I was like, well, that's what I was thinking as well. I was like, why are you saying that? He said, because when he was at, when Seattle came to Carolina to play, my friend was at the game, and it was the second they stopped blitzing Darnold when Darnold would eat them alive. And even before that conversation, that was going to be my thing. We have to make Darnold feel pressure, because that's when he makes mistakes. And that's what we've been good at so far this playoffs. We pressured Justin Herbert. We pressured C.J. Stroud. We pressured Jarrett Stidham. And we were able to create mistakes. And so I'm worried about Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker going off and running the ball. I'm worried about, can Christian Gonzalez play on JSN? Like, those are some legit worries. And I think that goes away if you can get pressure on Sam Darnold. The running game I'm not so worried about. It's JSN, right? And they love to throw the ball deep. Gonzo has been beat a couple times this year that a lot of people don't want to mention. Now, a lot of it was he thought he had safety help, and maybe he was really this. And we do have an issue at safety. I love Jalen Hawkins, and I don't even know who the other safety is, to be honest. Who's the other safety? That's how you know I don't know who it is. Like, because I know a lot of the players on the team. Carlton Davis has been good. Christian Gonzalez has been good. It's really just the safeties that, Jalen Hawkins has played well. Oh, Marcus Jones. But he's not really a safety. He's a corner. He's like a nickel corner. Who is our other safety? I don't even know if we play two safeties, to be honest with you. I know Marcus Jones is on the field a lot. But like I said, I feel like he plays nickel corner. But the point that I'm trying to really get to is, as I'm looking up who our other safety is. Oh, Woodson. Yeah, Woodson's not necessarily the greatest. He's good. Like, he's not bad. I think he's a rookie this year. The whole point is we need, well, of course, Milton Williams, Tonga, Barmore, but we need Caleb Chason. If Harold Landry plays, he needs to play big. We need pressure on the quarterback. Like, I would send 5 or 6 every play. Just every play that they're throwing the football, send 5 or 6. We need to have Sam Darnold frazzled, because that's the only way I think we can win. We have to play perfect defense. We have to blitz a lot. On the offensive side, I think this is where I'm a little bit concerned. We have to be honest. Drake May hasn't played the best football in the playoffs. I think we got to lean on our running game because we have a really good running attack. And I haven't watched enough Seahawks football to know how good their defense is. I know they're top 10 in the league. But I think we need to run the ball. We need to focus on running the ball and playing perfect defense. If we can do those things, I think the Patriots win. I legitimately believe that. We're in San Fran now. I find it funny. None of the teams want to practice at the Niners practice facility because they're buying into the whole it's next to the nuclear receptor or whatever, and that's what probably is causing so many injuries. So one of the teams is at San Jose State, I think it is, and the other one is practicing at Stanford. I found that hilarious. Just absolutely hilarious, in my opinion. That's happening, but I don't know. There's not much to really talk about when it comes to the game. I think I mentioned the key points. Like Drake May's got to play perfect. The defense has got to play perfect. I think on the other side, Seattle is arguably the best team in football right now. And they deserve their spot in the Super Bowl. And, I mean, this is not going to be an easy matter for the Patriots. With that being said, my prediction is going to be... I'm not a score guy. I'm not a predict the score type person. What I will say is this. I think it's going to be a very, very, very good game. And I'm going to be confident in my team. I'm going to pick the Patriots win. I don't think we blow them out. I think there's a greater chance the Seahawks blow out the Patriots than the Patriots blowing out the Seahawks. Just 100%. But I think it's going to be close. I'm not a score predictor, but I'm going to predict a score for this one. Ooh, boy. I'm going to go Patriots. win the game with the final score of 38-31. I think it'll be a 7-pointer. Patriots 38, Seahawks 31. That's going to be my prediction. Now, I'm probably going to be wrong, and that's fine. We'll come back here and we'll talk about that at a different time. But I think it's going to be a really fun game. And with that, let's turn over to the do you agree with. Now, I'm not going to give a lot of explanation. We'll sort of go through this and explain as needed. All right, so do you agree? And I would love to hear y'all's answers on these as well. Do you agree with the following statement? Most fans don't actually understand why they like what they like. They just reverse engineer reasons after the fact. See, if it didn't use the word most, I would agree with it. I'm going to disagree because of the word most. I think there is a percentage of fans, whether it's wrestling or football, but this pairs better with wrestling. I think there's a percentage of the fans who don't understand why they like something until after the fact, and they try to justify it to make, like, again, as it says, they don't understand why they like it, but they reverse engineer justifications for it after the fact. And so I'm a partially agree. I just don't like the word most because I don't think it applies to most fans. I think it's a very small subsection. Next one, do you agree that being over with the crowd matters more than being technically great every single time? And again, that phrase, every single time, is going to keep me from agreeing because I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think there are some wrestlers who are so technically great that we can say that they're good without them being over. Right? Now, for the most part, I would agree and say, yeah, if you don't draw the fan reaction, none of that matters. That's literally the business you're in with pro wrestling, is you have to be over. And if you're not over, it doesn't matter, right? And so that's what it's trying to, I guess, I think that's the point it's trying to make, is that if you're not over, it doesn't matter how technically great you are. But I do think there are some wrestlers that are so good technically in the ring that can kind of make up points from them not being over. But it's not, I would more tend to agree with the statement than not. Do you agree that losing with confidence hurts less than winning ugly? Disagree. Winning is all that matters. It doesn't have to be pretty, right? It's kind of, what I've been saying about the Patriots playoff run. All that matters is we win. Last week wasn't pretty. The week before that was kind of pretty. We destroyed the Texans, but the Chargers win wasn't pretty. The Broncos win wasn't pretty. As long as you win the football game, that's all that matters, right? Question 4, do you agree that fans overrate fairness and underrate dominance? I don't quite know what they mean by what. I don't know if I explained this. ChatGTP makes these statements. Not quite certain what it means by this. And I didn't ask follow-up questions. I would say this. What I will agree with is that a lot of fans overhype the idea of parity, and they don't truly enjoy dominant dynasties, right? I think that's part of the reason. Like, everyone wants to hate on the Patriots, but what they are going to realize in 20, 30 years when they look back from 2000 to 2019 was that you saw complete dominance in every area of the game for 20 years, and you took it for granted. You wanted to hate on it, right? I think there is an and really fairness and parity are kind of the same thing, right? The league has to be fair, right? It's sort of the same thing with what I mentioned with baseball on, I don't know, was it this show or was it just yapping? I don't remember, about the Dodgers and salary cap in baseball. And everyone's complaining, well, we need the league to be more fair. No, just appreciate, like, I appreciate that. I hate the Dodgers, by the way, right? Absolutely despise the Dodgers, right? But I'm appreciative of a team that recognizes that in order to win, you have to spend money in baseball. And it's not your fault that Kansas City's owner doesn't want to spend money. Or Detroit's owner is the fifth wealthiest owner in baseball, but doesn't spend money. That's not the Dodgers' fault. It's not the Yankees' fault, right? It's not the big market team's fault that small market teams don't spend money. It's not their fault, right? And so I think if people would appreciate dominance, like just completely win at all cost mindset. So I guess I talked myself into agreeing with the statement. All right. Do you agree the best stories in wrestling are usually accidental, not planned? I do not. I disagree heavily with this one. I think sometimes you could fall into an accidental story that ends up being good, but I tend to believe that the best stories are those that are pre-thought out and executed perfectly the way they were thought out. Right, so we're going to start here. We want to get here. Here's how we want to do it, and to follow that, and execute it perfectly, I think, are the better stories. Do you agree with fans say they want long-term storytelling, but their patience lasts about 2 weeks? And I don't. I think a lot of fans have a lot more patience, especially the IWC. I think it's the casual fans that don't have the patience to wait because they need to justify why they're watching the show. And if there's no payoff, they tend to pull back. But I think the hardcore fan of wrestling, they have a little bit more patience. Number 7, do you agree if everything makes sense on paper, it probably won't work on the field? Yes and no. I think there is such thing as being too over-prepared and too rational about what you do. There are things that you can't control. There are variables that you can't control. But at the same time, I do think that, in football, being prepared is important. In wrestling, having things written down, even to a T, like, hey, this is how we want it to be executed, and then to have that execute the way you wanted it to, I think that's a good thing, right? So I don't agree that if everything makes sense, that it's not going to work. I think sometimes that's the case. I don't think every time, right? Number 8, do you agree most bad booking complaints from fans are just fans being mad their guys don't win? 100% agree with this. A lot of the takes that I see in the IWC and on the internet of bad booking is really just, well, my guy didn't win, and that doesn't make any sense to me, right? And so I agree with that. 9, do you agree leadership only gets praised when things go right, but blamed even when things are out of their control? I take this more on, like, a quarterback's leadership gets praised when things go right. But if things are going wrong, even if it's something they can't control, it's the quarterback's leadership that gets shit on or blamed. I'd agree with that. I would. I look at someone like a Jalen Hurts, who last year, greatest quarterback of all time is what the media was starting to promote, right? This year, even though it really wasn't his fault that they were losing all these games, now the media is, he can't read an offense. or he can't read defenses, so that's why we can't run complex offenses, is what I've heard some people say. No, it makes no sense to me, right? I do believe in that statement. And then number 10, do you agree the gap between casual fans and online fans is bigger than one imagines? Or so essentially the question is, do you agree that the gap between casual fans and online fans is bigger than you originally think? And I actually disagree. This is a point of contention. There's a lot of casual fans that tell me that majority of wrestling fans are casual and that the online fans make up a niche of a niche. And I would disagree. I believe that the online wrestling fan, the millions of accounts online that tweet about wrestling day after day, make up a majority of your wrestling fan base. And so I would disagree with that statement. Questions from the Discord. Here we go. Wrap this thing up. It's been a great episode. All right, here we go. First question from Kara. We know Stone Cold and The Rock have had legendary careers. They've also had short careers. A lot of years of inactivity, occasional appearances. Do you believe if they wrestled longer or more, their careers would be different for the better or the worse? So first off, you're mentioning a point as to why Stone Cold and The Rock are not on my Mount Rushmore of greatest wrestlers of all time. If you know me, my Mount Rushmore is Hogan, Flair, Cena, and Roman Reigns. And these two, as great as they were, the reason that they're being deducted is the length of their stay. The length of their importance to the industry. Austin had about 4 years at the top. Same with The Rock, right? And I don't think that's enough of a resume to say, I mean, they had great moments. But at the end of the day, Roman Reigns ran the industry for 4 years. Right? At the top of his game, ran the industry. The most important person in wrestling for 4 years. Roman Reigns is on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. For that very reason alone. And so I'll say this. If they wrestled more or had longer careers, I guess it really just depends on like the booking. But I feel like they were on the way out anyway. With the book, like Austin sort of left because they wanted him to put Lesnar over. And he was on his way out. I think it would actually hurt at this point. I do. I think if they would have stayed longer, it would have hurt their legacy as they were moving to the ruthless aggression era. Obviously, The Rock and them would be able to adapt. I just don't know how good it would have been, to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of The Rock, to be honest with you. His work was fun, and it was good, and it gets a pop, and he's a draw, and I get all that. I don't think his wrestling work was all that good, just to be honest with you. And really the same thing with Austin. Like, when you really look back at it, when you look at, and I did an entire episode on this several years ago, when you look at the Attitude Era, in hindsight, it's not good. You got some wrestlers that came from it that put on some decent entertainment, but it really wasn't a good era, all in all, right? And so I don't know. I don't necessarily think if they would have been longer, it would have been better. I'm not going to sit here and say it would have for sure been worse. I can't imagine their careers would have gone any better, though, when they probably would have been booked mid-card. Just the way I'm looking at it. Right? Kara also then asked, you get a phone call, you answer it, you find out Triple H dialed the wrong number, but out of courtesy to you, he's giving you 2 minutes to speak to him. What will you speak about? 2 minutes is not enough to ask him about booking, because that'll end up into a 2-hour conversation.
So it probably would just be like a 2-minute pitch asking him for a job. Like, hey, NXT, can I work there? I don't know. I just feel like a 2-minute phone call. What are you going to talk about? You can't really talk about much of anything in a 2-minute phone call. So, yeah, it probably would just be like, hey, what's going on with the job, man? Can I work for you? Have you listened to the pod yet? Right? She then finally asked, a couple weeks ago, you talked about your dream WWE run. Let's try your AEW run. Shad Khan hires you because he is not satisfied with his return on investment. Awesome word usage, ROI. Great usage of vocab, business vocab there. He's not satisfied with his return on investment. In AEW, he's giving you power over Tony. What are you doing? As far as booking goes, I have zero clue what's going on storyline-wise. So it's going to be very hard to say this is what I would do storyline-wise, like I did for the WWE question. Here's the first thing that I'm doing. What I'm going to do is Shad takes over, or Shad calls me, says, hey, come down to Jacksonville. I step into his office. Tony's there. He says, Tony, Randall's now in charge. WETOODEEP is now in charge, right? And I say, okay, Tony, don't leave the room disappointed yet. I need you to still to book the show. I don't think Tony Khan's doing a bad job. I think what Tony Khan needs, though, is he needs someone to take some responsibility away from him. I think he does too much. And because of that, I also think he needs someone to check him and put him in his place. I think if Tony Khan worked for somebody as a booker, he'd be fine. Like if WWE hired Tony Khan to be a booker, I think he could come up with some creative ideas. I really do. And so that's what I would be. It would be like sort of the same way. Like I think Jerry Jones needs to step away and hire like a player or football operations manager, right? And so that's exactly what I would put myself in as. I would be wrestling operations manager, right, for the company. And I would say, Tony, your sole role is to book the show. You're not going to manage contracts. You're not going to manage wrestlers. You're not going to manage anything else. Your sole role is to write the show. You're doing a good job at it for the most part. I'm going to keep you on in this role because you're already booking the show, right? With that being said, Tony, I'm going to cut more than half of your roster. So that'll be the second thing, right? Tony, you're going to book the show. Second thing, we're cutting the roster. Roster's too bloated. We're spending way too much money. Part of your dad's issue, Tony, is there's just no return, right, on the initial investment. And so we're going to do two things with the roster. The first thing is we're cutting it. So if you look on a SmackDown Hotel, which has all the rosters for all the companies from practically every year in existence of the companies, right? So if you look at the current roster as of today, it lists AEW as having over 200 talents. I'd probably get it down to about 100. Maybe less. Probably 75, if we're being honest. I haven't taken the time to go through the roster on who I would cut. But we would cut a lot. The second thing I would do with the roster is who's permanently on the 3 shows. And I say 3 shows because you have ROH. So the first thing, or once we figure that out, the third thing I'm going to do, Tony becomes booker. Figure out who the talent that's going to stay are. We're cutting a lot of the trim. We're going to trim the fat. And then the third thing is we're putting ROH on YouTube to be viewed by the general public without having to pay for Honor Club, but promoting Honor Club for the pay-per-views. Similar to an Evolve situation where Evolve is on Tubi for free. But I don't want to, Tubi probably won't let AEW on for free. I don't know of any other streaming free service. We're just going to put it on YouTube. I think it's one of the things that made, you got a decent viewership with Dark, but we'll do it with ROH, and it will have its own unique roster and own unique storylines. And so you'll have Wednesday Night Dynamite, Saturday Night Collision, and Ring of Honor. I mean, I don't know what you can name the TV show. Like, it could literally just be Ring of Honor. And you could do that on Tuesdays. You could do that on Thursdays. You could do it on Fridays for all that, right? I don't necessarily, right? But stream it live or tape it. I would even say tape it and just have episodes get put up every whatever day you choose. And people can watch it that way. That way, at least the general public can watch the TV tapings. That will present them to buy Honor Club to watch the pay-per-views. Because right now you have to buy Honor Club to even watch Ring of Honor. And so the only people that are going to want to watch a Honor Club and pay for it to watch Ring of Honor are the people who care about Ring of Honor. And so you have to make people care about it. And you do that by giving them the product for free. And then maybe they'll buy the pay-per-views, right? So that's one of the things. That's sort of how I would do it. I probably wouldn't book it. I would, because I think Tony Khan's doing a decent job from a booking perspective. It's not how I would typically do it, but he's booking for his audience. So I would come in and just say, Tony, you need someone to tell you what to do and to sort of put boundaries on you, right? So you book the show, I get final say. I'm probably going to agree 99% of what you say. If you do something stupid or book something stupid, I'll say no. But just continue doing what you're doing on a booking perspective. I'm going to come in and run a business so that your dad can make his money back. And to do that, I got to cut the roster. And we're putting ROH on YouTube. And with the hopes of maybe ad spots, maybe monetization from that in one way, shape, or the other. Or to get people to actually buy Honor Club. But so that's how I would do that. I don't think I would actually book the show though. And then Wavy D asked this fun question. Which identity group of main roster women has the best overall group of talent? So he gave me teams of, I believe they're 5. Yeah, teams of 5. So you have the representatives of the black team. This is what he called them. These are not my names. The black team. B-Fab, Jade Cargill, Lash Legend, Naomi, Bianca Belair. Decent team for sure. You have your representatives from your Hispanic team. Raquel Rodriguez. Roxanne Perez, Bailey, Zelina Vega, Stephanie Vaquer. 100%. So let's judge each team so far. So black team. Bianca and Jade and Naomi, I say, if I were to give an overall grade, Bianca's an A. Well, let's do this. Let's actually do this live in person. So if I give you an A, that's 5 points. B is 4. C is 3. D is 2. F is 1. Right? So Bianca is an A. I'd give Naomi a B. Lash Legends for now is a C, but I think she has a potential to get better. Jade Cargill to me is a B. And B-Fab, I'm gonna put as a C as well, with a lot of potential to get better. So that's a total of it's 9, 12, 16, 19. So 19 out of 25 for the black team. We go down to the Hispanic team. Raquel Rodriguez, I'd make a B. Roxanne Perez, I'd also make a B. Bailey, I'd put as a B. Selena Vega, I'm going to put as a D. To be completely honest with you. Not too sold on her. And then Stephanie Vaquer, I'd put as a B. So you have a lot of B teams here. But that'll put you at 16, 18. So 18 for the Hispanic team, so black team, is still in the lead. We then go to the Asian team. Asuka, I'll put as a C for right now. Io is an A. Kyrie is a C, in my opinion. Julia is a B. And Mia Yim, I'll give a C. So that's 8. 11, 15. Is that 18 as well? Let's see, 9, and yeah, 18. So 18 for the Asian team, which puts them tied for second. We then split the whites into two teams. You have the American and the European team. So the American team is Ivy Nile. We'll give her a D. Charlotte in her current form is a B. Liv Morgan is an A. Alexa Bliss, again in her current form, I'd give her a B. And then Jordan Grace, this is going to probably be unpopular, but I'm going to put Jordan Grace as, I'll give her a C. I think some people may think she's a B. I was going to do a D, but I'll be fair, and I'll put her as a C. So that makes the American team at 6, 10, 15, at 18 as well. So black team still on top by a 1-point lead. And then we get the European team. We have Becky Lynch. She's a B to me. I don't think she's at A tier right now. Lyra Valkyria, as much as I love her, her current presentation is C, right? She's not winning matches. She's sort of a valet right now, right? So in her current form, right? Alba Fire, I'm going to be honest with you. And her, as she's being presented, right? She's an F. She's not doing anything. She's a lackey, bro. And so she's going to be an F. Piper Niven's maybe never going to wrestle again. I think she broke her neck, right? So we have to be what she was presented as. And again, she was sort of presented as a lackey. But she was somewhat better than Alba Fire to me. But she's got to be a D, right? And then Rhea Ripley, of course, is an A, which is going to put this team at 8, 10, at 15 for the European team, which means with a score of 19 of 25, the black team is the best overall group. Now, I'm sure you guys probably would be like, well, you could have done like the prime version of each. And if that was the case, then probably the European or the American team win this. But I'm going to go based off what they currently are doing now, right? That's how I judged it. So we'll go ahead and say the black team with the score of 19. You then have a three-way tie for second place at 18. And then you have the European team at last place. I feel like you could have done better with picking the Europeans. Well, no. I even feel like, well, no. So the problem is, we don't have Canada represented here. Because Chelsea Green should probably have been on one of these. Technically, she's American, right? She's from North America. But then you would have to split, Hispanic or whatever. I'm trying to think of Europeans that you could have done better. I mean, technically, let's just be honest. Rhea Ripley's not European. She's Australian. So that's Oceania as a continent. But I'll give that a pass. We'll give that a pass. But yeah, I'm confident with that response. I like that response. We'll give it to the black team there. To be the better group of that was given to me. Well, that's all we got. Thank you all for listening to the Slapping Meat Community Show. Just a reminder, change of schedule for the week. Just Yapping will come out tomorrow, Tuesday, instead of Friday, due to my personal work schedule changing. But other than that, this has been the episode of the Slapping Meat Community Show. I'm your host, WETOODEEP. Until next Monday, I will see you on the next episode.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride. Whether it's NXT or NFL time, going in the ropes and fourth and deep. Slapping Meat Community every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, every Tuesday.